Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. You are joining us on the way to Munich's Franz Josef Strauss International Airport. Today we are traveling back to the US from Munich, Germany in Lufthansa's business class. And we are extra excited today because our final leg from Frankfurt to Chicago will be in the business class cabin of the iconic Boeing 747. We arrived at Terminal 2 at Munich Airport, which serves Lufthansa and its Star Alliance partners. Hey guys, welcome to the Munich Airport. We're just out in front of the duty-free shop, but we're in Munich today because we are flying back to the US through Frankfurt, and we're flying business class, and we thought, hey, what better way to show you a really short, probably the shortest business class flight we've ever done, than to take you on our trip from Munich to Frankfurt in business class on Lufthansa. There are so many flights every day between Frankfurt and Munich, both of them being hubs for Lufthansa and other Star Alliance partners. This flight is super short. It's only about an hour and 5 minutes, but that's gate to gate, so we're guessing it's like 30 minutes in the air, maybe 40. So it should be a super short flight, and we'll see what kind of services we get on the way. So yeah, let's head up to the lounge because we get lounge access, so we need to try that out, and then head over to the gate. Unlike many US carriers like Delta or United, you will always get access to the business class lounge or the business class ticket on Lufthansa, even for domestic flights. There are 3 different lounge types on Lufthansa. There's the first class lounge, which is open to first class ticketed guests as well as Han Circle members, which is the most elite tier you can get on Lufthansa's frequent traveler program. Senator Lounges, which is open to everyone previously mentioned, as well as Senator status guests and Star Alliance Gold status guests. And the Business Class Lounge, which is open to everyone previously mentioned, as well as business class guests. With our business class tickets, we gained entry into the Business Class Lounge. This business class lounge is actually quite large, and there's several tables, comfortable chairs, and even office-like spaces that you can sit in and work. Here we grabbed some breakfast. The Lufthansa lounges generally have a good spread of food, including hot and cold dishes. You can also find several different self-service beverages, including soft drinks and alcohol. The most important part of our breakfast today, though, was definitely going to be the coffee. Eventually, though, it was time to make our way to the gate. After seeing that there was no airplane sitting at our designated gate, we were very relieved to hear that there was a last-minute gate change. We made our way down the jet bridge and into the cabin of this Airbus A321 for our very short flight to Frankfurt. The business class seats on Lufthansa's short-haul flights like this are very typical in Europe. They usually consist of a row of 3 seats that are exactly the same as economy seats, sometimes with a bit more legroom, with a blocked seat in the middle. There is generally a decent amount of legroom in these Lufthansa flights, but don't expect much else from the seats. We pushed back just a few minutes late and made our way out to the runway. On the way there, we saw the flight that we would be returning on in a few weeks, this United Airlines 787 Dreamliner. Make sure you subscribe to our channel so you can check out that experience in the future. We took to the sky on this rainy morning, and once we hit 10,000 feet, the crew sprang into action. We have never seen a flight crew moving this quickly, but just 5 minutes after hitting that 10,000 foot threshold, we had a small meal in front of us, as well as a drink. Today it was a lunch of fricadelle and meatballs, cheesy potatoes, and chocolate mousse. As always, these were delicious. In addition to dessert, we were also provided with this small nougat candy. Mine never made it to the ground though. So we just started our descent. We were at altitude for like 15 minutes, so very short. The weather seemed to be clearing up a bit as we started making our descent. It looked like we'd be landing into a sunny day at Frankfurt. It was just amazing that this crew was able to complete a drink service in economy and a full meal and drink service in business class for a flight in which we only spent 40 minutes in the air. We drifted down gently through the clouds and got some amazing views of the downtown of Frankfurt as we came in for landing. As we started taxiing to the gate, we got a sneak peek of the type of plane that would be taking us on the next leg of our journey. This beautiful Boeing 747. Wow, so that was such a quick flight. We were probably leveled off for maybe 15 minutes, and then we started our descent into Frankfurt. So we're in Frankfurt now. Overall, the business class is a decent product on these short haul flights. You do get a meal, you get drinks. The meal is pretty good. It always packs a lot of flavor, which we're always surprised by. Maybe this is a hot take, but we actually really like Lufthansa's catering, especially on these short flights. We think it's really good. Would we pay for it by itself? Because this is part of a connection for us through Frankfurt all the way to Chicago. It's just not worth it. But now we're headed to passport control and then the lounge and then our flight onward to Chicago. So that's where we're headed now. Welcome to the cluster that is Frankfurt Airport. I feel like we were walking for about 30 minutes from our last flight, but we finally got through passport control, and now we're on the right side for our flight home, the Queen of the Skies, the 747. So excited about this flight. I've never been in a 747 before, and as an AV geek, this is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, especially since Lufthansa is pretty much one of the only airlines in the West that operates the 747 anymore. Super excited, but like I said, we got through passport control, so now we're going to head to the business class lounge here in Frankfurt in Terminal 1, and we're going to see how the lounge is. The lounge here was very similar to, though much larger than, the business class lounge in Munich. There was again plenty to eat and drink with hot and cold options, as well as ample seating. We had 6 hours to kill here before our next flight, so we settled in and enjoyed ourselves. After sitting here for about 2 hours, though, we heard a very interesting announcement come over the speaker.
Meine Damen und Herren, wir möchten Sie darüber informieren, dass die Lounge hier oben in
So they closed the lounge on us, so we're headed downstairs to the Senator Lounge, see if we can get in there. It's only 1:30 in the afternoon, so it's a little surprising that they're closing this lounge, but it is what it is. Luckily, they were letting business class guests into the Senator Lounge today, so we made our way downstairs to the Senator Lounge directly below the business class lounge and settled in. We grabbed some seats by the windows, getting this spectacular view out over the apron. This is something you can't get at the Munich lounges. We were able to kind of move around in these last 5 or 6 hours to different areas, a nice seating area, lying area. They have sleeping areas, and then they also have like work areas, basically workstations like you might find in an office. So got a couple hours of work done, did some reading, just hung out, had some food. They definitely keep you fed in these lounges. Well, you can probably tell from the waning light that we've been here for a while. So we're going to get going. Our flight leaves in about an hour. We board 45 minutes before, and it looks like it's about a 9-minute walk to the gate. So yeah, this lounge has been pretty good. Decent place to spend the last 6 hours or so, because that's how long our connection was, unfortunately. But it'll all be worth it, because we'll be in the business class seats on the 747 Queen of the Skies. We'll actually be in the upper deck, in the hump. We're excited about that. So yeah, let's get going to the plane. We made the 10-minute walk from the lounge over to our gate, and lo and behold, our 747 was parked. Isn't it beautiful? The Queen of the Skies here, 747-800, taking us from Frankfurt to Chicago. I just realized you could barely see me in the camera, so hopefully that's oh, there we go. This is a beautiful plane, and there is arguably no other plane that has made such a mark on aviation history, other than maybe the Wright Flyer. This was the first true jumbo jet, making its first flight in 1969 and its first commercial flights with Pan Am in 1970. This jet paved the way for efficiency and capacity for every other wide-bodied aircraft that came after it, and it redefined international passenger travel. I'm really excited. 747, Catherine.
Yeah.
She's not that excited.
Queen of the Skies or whatever.
Yeah, she doesn't care. She doesn't realize how important this is.
I am excited, but some of the magic is lost on me. I'm sorry. But I'm happy that you're happy.
It was time to board, and we made our way down the long jet bridge through the business class cabin on the main level and up the stairs into the business class cabin in the upper deck. This was a 747-8, the largest variant of the 747 used for passenger travel. Lufthansa's 747-8 contains, on the main deck, 8 first-class seats in the nose of the plane, followed by 48 business class seats in a 222 layout, 32 premium economy seats in a 242 layout, and 244 economy seats in a 343 layout. On the upper deck, you'll find a much smaller cabin, with the remaining 32 business class seats in a much more intimate 2-2 layout. We had heard that there was much less noise and a much more cozy cabin in the upper deck, so that is where we aim to sit today. As you can tell, the 747 has not been updated to the new Lufthansa Allegris business class seats. This is the same type of layout we've seen in other business class flights with Lufthansa. There is literally no privacy at all afforded by these seats. If you're sitting by the window, you also don't have direct aisle access. When the beds are all in a lie-flat position, and you have to go to the bathroom in the middle of the flight, you might be in for an uncomfortable conversation with your neighbor. Getting over the privacy aspect, the seats are generally a good size, and they're fairly comfortable. There are several seat controls built into the armrest of the seat, and the armrests between the seats are a good size as well. They can comfortably hold a glass while giving you a place to rest your arm, something that we utilized for our pre-departure glass of sparkling wine. Overhead you'll find a reading light, but no individual air vent. In the window seats, you'll find a large storage compartment on the window, which is where I stuffed my rather fluffy comforter, sheets, and pillow provided before we boarded. There's also a small storage compartment under the seat back in front of you, as well as a small storage compartment in the armrest. The seat back drawer and the small armrest compartment are the only real storage you get if you're not in a window seat, excluding the overhead bins, of course. One of the best things about sitting in the upper deck of the 747 was this view you get looking backwards out the window. Here are 2 of the massive GE engines that will push this plane across the Atlantic. Right on time, the safety video was activated, and our plane was pushed back from the gate. As the tug pushed us back, I found something I was not expecting: outside cameras. There was a forward-facing camera near the nose gear and a downward-facing camera. It was a real shame that this flight would be in darkness, because this feature is one that's far too difficult to come by on planes these days. We taxied for a bit before lining up on the westward-facing runway and taking off towards the US. Given our flight direction, there really wasn't a whole lot to see out the windows, so I turned my attention to the Inflight Entertainment. The IFE on Lufthansa is very average. They always have a decent number of shows and movies that are available, but the IFE software seems very dated. However, it generally works okay. There are other things you can access here like music, games, podcasts, and more, as well as connecting flight information and the flight cameras, which I mentioned earlier. The IFE remote, which you will find in the center armrest, is a bit clunky, however, and I had issues with mine the whole flight. Right after hitting 10,000 feet, the flight crew came around for a drink service and some warm cashew nuts. Then we were brought the meals that we had selected before takeoff. For my appetizer, I went with the tuna tataki, which was very good. I followed that with a main of traditional beef goulash and spätzle, with some Brussels sprouts. I have to say that this meal was absolutely delicious. Like we said earlier, these meals on Lufthansa generally don't look like anything special, but they tend to be packed with flavor. For dessert, I had a chocolate cake, which seemed to disappear before I had a chance to film it. We'd had a long day so far, so I thought I would just rest my eyes and enjoy the lie-flat seat for a bit. Much to my surprise, I awoke with less than 2 hours left of the flight. We were cruising over Canada, and I could hear the flight crew getting ready in the galley for our next meal service. I popped out my tray table and was presented with this glass noodle salad with a giant piece of bok choy on top. I passed by the bok choy, but the salad itself was very refreshing, and there were so many more flavors than I was expecting. Before we knew it, we were headed over Lake Michigan and making our final descent into Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. Unfortunately, we came in a bit too far north to get a good view of Chicago's skyline, but it was still a beautiful descent. As we taxi over to the gate, let's talk about what we thought of this flight. Well, it was absolutely amazing to fly in the Queen of the Skies. This iconic aircraft is something I never thought I'd be able to fly in, and luckily with Lufthansa it is still possible. As far as the service goes, it was great on both our flight from Munich to Frankfurt and our onward flight to Chicago. The crew were amazing, the food was delicious, and we felt paid attention to and cared for on these flights. The upper deck cabin of the 747 was very quiet, and it was a comfortable place to spend for these 9 hours. The seats are where Lufthansa does receive lower marks from us, though. The seat is comfortable, and we knew what we were getting into. On many of Lufthansa's other aircraft, the new Allegris Business Class seats are being installed. This includes 80 new 787s, A350s, and 777s. This business class seat will bring Lufthansa in line with its other competitors as far as business class and first class experiences go. Unfortunately, these seats will not be installed on the 747s. Another thing to mention here is the lounge. The Lufthansa lounges are generally very nice. Plenty of seating, plenty of outlets, plenty of food and drink, display boards with flight information, and more. They are also very clean, comfortable, and very quiet. They make a nice place to spend your time before your flight. So how much did we pay for this one-way transatlantic flight from Munich to Chicago via Frankfurt? We actually booked this as part of a round-trip ticket in business class through United Airlines. As you know, you can book Star Alliance flights on United's website. The return flight would get us back to Munich directly from Chicago after a couple of weeks. The total price for this round trip, including our flight from Munich to Chicago via Frankfurt on Lufthansa, and from Chicago back to Munich via United Airlines, was $2,115.15 per passenger. Overall, this is not a terrible price for business class, and we were getting to fly on the Queen of the Skies, which is honestly priceless. Have you ever flown in this configuration of Lufthansa's business class? We're also curious to hear if you've flown on the new Lufthansa Allegris product. Let us know about your experience in the comments down below. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.